In his Middle Ages, Goya had an extreme fever that left him deaf, and he became a bit of a social recluse. He went into a self-imposed exile during the reign of Ferdinand, and he passed the time in a villa called Quinta del Sarto, which means the deaf man's villa, which is ironic because it wasn't named after Goya being a deaf guy. The previous tenant was also deaf. So just, happy accident, I guess. But while he was living at Quinta del Sarto, he painted this series of works that are extremely dark. And I mean that literally and figuratively. Uh, the artworks were painted onto the walls of the villa itself, and they speak to the horrors of humanity that he was wrestling with, because he was feeling so hopeless and despondent after what he had experienced under Charles IV, and then under Joseph, Napoleon's brother, and then with Ferdinand. The series of works are called Goya's Black Paintings. Here are images of them. We're not going to look at all of them, but you can see how they're extremely dark and they have this hot pops of highlight. And they also have these ghoulish, almost nightmarish feelings and scenes and creatures. The one that we're going to be focusing on is this one here. This is Goya's Saturn devouring one of his children. What? Ugh, it's terribly disturbing. I know. What he's depicting here is an ancient Greek myth. As the myth goes, there was the great Titan. There were many Titans, these large, horrific creatures, before the gods. And the Titans gave birth to the gods. Now, the Titan Saturn received a prophecy that his children would kill him, or one of his children would kill him. So his solution was to eat his children, and he would consume them, and they would be living in his stomach. I know it sounds crazy, bizarre, but it's a Greek myth, so that's what it is. The last of his sons that he ate was Jupiter. He was the surviving son because he tricked his dad into eating a stone instead of his body. And then he basically gutted his dad and freed his siblings, and they became the gods of the Greek mythology. The look on this man's face, he's wild, insane, there's gore, it's horrific, it's revolting, the carnage. What we're looking at here is a man, or the Titan's, fear of death. And it emphasizes this brutality and this battle of life and death, right? Look at his crazed eyes. Goya is not the first to paint this scene from Greek mythology. In fact, the beloved Flemish Baroque artist Rubens painted the scene before. So during the 17th century, we had Rubens showing the same Saturn devouring one of his children. Goya most likely would have seen this exact painting by Rubens, because Rubens worked for the Spanish at that time. The reason that he's painting this, Goya is painting this scene, is because he's making a parallel to Ferdinand. Remember, I said Saturn is killing, consuming, destroying his people or his children for his own benefit, his own life. Ferdinand, he was a big disappointment. Under Ferdinand, we see a restoration of absolute monarchy. He reinstituted the Inquisition, which had been slowing significantly before Napoleonic Wars, and there was no Inquisition during the Napoleonic Wars. Ferdinand reestablished a very conservative university program, which meant that any free thinking, free thought was illegal. There was suppression of any opposition. Anybody who spoke out against him was arrested, tortured, punished. There had been a revolt in 1820 against him, but he still continued to reign. And so, just as Saturn destroys his people or his children, Ferdinand, for his power, for his control, is destroying Spain. Now, the paintings were painted onto the villa walls and then were transferred onto canvas. I don't know how that happened. Don't ask me because I don't know. But they are now in the Prado Museum in Spain, in Madrid.